See, here's the most important thing that people have to answer, and let me come to this first. So far, we still don't have a structure with respect to how the NRC is going to look on a nationwide basis, right? So, what we have before us is how NRC was undertaken in Assam. Okay, we have some idea of it, right? So, in my talks before, especially in the Nalsar debate, I specifically pointed out where does the NRC come from? It comes from the Citizenship Act, where there's a specific provision, Section 14A, that deals with it, and the rules for NRC have been framed under Section 18. I specifically said this on the Nalsar debate. Okay. Now, there are two specific provisions, one which deals with NRC for the rest of the country, and one which deals with special provisions for NRC for Assam. Okay, these are two different things. Now, here are the set of documents which were deemed as admissible for the purposes of NRC in Assam, and this is a printout from the Office of the State Coordinator of National Registration, Assam, NRC Assam, Government of Assam. What do they say? What are the admissible documents? There are two sets of documents, List A and List B. List A is supposed to show that you were present or your ancestor was present in Assam before the 24th of March 1971. What are the documents? The original NRC of 1951 or the electoral rolls up to 24th March 1971 midnight, land or tenancy records, citizenship certificate or permanent residential certificate, refugee registration certificate or passport or LIC or any government issued license certificate or government service stroke employment certificate or bank or post office accounts or birth certificate, board university education certificate or court records or processes. How many of us are actually worried that we don't have these documents? I really want to know.
No, I think that is the general discourse, because people tend to frame problems for exceptions rather than for the...
So I'll come to that.
Yeah.
Assuming that you don't have these documents under List A, what does List B require? Birth certificate, land document, board university certificate, again bank, LIC, post office records, circle officer, GP secretary certificate in case of married women, electoral roll, ration card or any other legally acceptable document. This is an omnibus requirement. How many of us are actually worried of this? So here's the funny part. People are actually saying anybody who comes into India, as long as he's a Hindu, Buddhist, Sikh, Jain, Parsi or a Christian, he will immediately be entitled to this particular Amendment Act. He will be the beneficiary of this. Do you know what documents they actually have to deposit to actually prove that they are Pakistani nationals who are fleeing Pakistan, or Bangladeshi nationals who are fleeing Bangladesh, or Afghani nationals? So the point is, we don't know the process. We don't know the operational details, but we have assumed that they just have to come and say, "मैं हिंदू हूँ, गर्व से कहो तुम हिंदू हो, तुम्हें मिल जाएगा." Is that how it works? These people have to deposit their passports. There is an FRRO. There is a police station which does the verification. Take a look at the process. In fact, the government has said what? It is yet to come out with rules supporting this particular mechanism under the Amendment Act to establish what are the documents they need to present to prove their origins and their nationality. Okay, so let's tie this with the NRC aspect. Assume that NRC were to be undertaken in Coimbatore, in Tamil Nadu, okay, the so-called Dravidian land, okay. Assume for a moment that a Hindu is excluded from the particular process. How is he going to establish that he is from Afghanistan, Pakistan or Bangladesh and that he was in India before the 31st of December 2014? Let's take the persecuted minority from Kashmir. Can you establish that you're from Pakistan, Bangladesh or Afghanistan to get the benefit of the CAA? Can people from Rajasthan otherwise establish it? What are we really talking about? So what are they saying? No. The Home Minister has made a statement as part of his election speech that first we'll come out with the CAA and then we'll come out with the NRC. Does the CAA extend its application to a nationwide NRC? Not at all. Because there's a cut-off date that you're supposed to meet. There are 3 countries from which you're supposed to come. You're supposed to establish that you've come from those places. Unless and until you do that, how are you the beneficiary of the CAA? Assume for a moment, and here's the interesting part, that you came to India after the 31st of December 2014 and you're a refugee, or let's say you're fleeing from Pakistan, Bangladesh or Afghanistan. Even then you are not entitled to this because there is a cut-off date. If you come to India and you've entered India after the 31st of December 2014 and you're a persecuted minority coming from these 6 communities, coming from these 3 states, even then you're not entitled to the benefit under this Amendment Act. That is the extent of this particular framework. That is the limited scope of this particular framework. 3, has the government so far established what are the rules with respect to the NRC for India? So let's take a look at the relevant provision. What is the relevant provision? You have to take a look at the Citizenship Registration of Citizens and Issue of National Identity Cards Rules of 2003, and the provision that you'll be looking at is Rule 4, which speaks of preparation of a National Register of Indian Citizens, which flows from Section 14 of the Citizenship Act. Okay. The Registrar General of Citizen Registration shall establish and maintain the National Register of Citizens, and what details it will contain is what it has said. The central government may, by an order issued in this regard, decide a date by which the population register shall be prepared by collecting information relating to all persons. Now, what notification has the government come out with respect to how the nationwide NRC will look like? Just as you have a list of documents that you are supposed to show for NRC Assam, do you have a similar notification for a nationwide NRC that is still in the works? So, to actually say that a current legislation, which is the CAA, which has a cutoff date of 31st of December 2014, will effectively extend its benefit to people of a future date if they get excluded from a nationwide NRC, boggles the mind. It's simple logic. I'm not even giving convoluted legal logic here, right? So, I certainly believe that people, it's okay. I don't expect people who are non-lawyers to know all of these things, which is why I said this document is not easy for the media to have discovered. It was not difficult for the media to have discovered the Citizenship Act or the documents which are necessary for NRC Assam or the cutoff dates for the CAA. Despite this, where is this fear-mongering coming from? What is the basis of this entire logic? So, which is why I believe that unfortunately this entire issue has been hijacked. I have no other option but to come to this inevitable, inescapable conclusion that this issue has been hijacked. There should have been any number of people, there will always be fringe elements who make an issue out of anything. But how are we generating this kind of mass hysteria, or at least projecting the existence of mass hysteria when there may be none? Perhaps there are only certain sections. Have we asked ourselves, who are these people who are actually rioting on the streets, who fear being expelled from this particular country because of a future NRC? So these questions need to be answered. I don't think there has been any discussion on facts. I think the only issue that perhaps we must consider discussing, subject to what you think, is the Assam Accord.